You're walking through Dollar Tree right now, or you walked through one recently, and you walked past the exact items that could save your life without even knowing it. Not the fancy prepper store, not the overpriced tactical gear website that charges $300 for a bag that breaks in the rain. Dollar Tree, the store you go to for birthday cards and dish soap, the store you've written off as cheap, disposable, beneath your preparedness standards. And that assumption, that quiet dismissal of the most underrated survival resource in America, might be the most dangerous thing about your current situation. Because when the earthquake hits, when the hurricane makes landfall, when the grid goes dark and stays dark, FEMA says you need to survive 72 hours on your own. 72 hours before help comes, if it comes. And 90% of people in this country cannot do it. Drop Dollar Store Warrior or Too Good for Dollar Tree in the comments right now, because what you discover in the next few minutes will either change how you shop forever or prove you're still too proud to survive. Here's the reality that the billion-dollar survival industry doesn't want you to know. The markup on most survival gear is astronomical, and the majority of it is marketed to your fear rather than your actual needs. They're selling you identity, not capability. They want you to feel like a prepared person rather than actually being one. A tactical flashlight with military branding costs $40 and uses the same LED technology as a $2 flashlight from Dollar Tree. A emergency poncho, an outdoor retailer, costs $12. Dollar Tree has the same Mylar material for $1. The chemistry doesn't change based on the price tag. Water is still purified by sodium hypochlorite, whether it came from a luxury prepper kit or a bottle of Dollar Tree bleach. This is a contrarian truth that experienced survivalists, people who've lived through actual disasters, not influencers who dress up in gear they know. Cheap is inferior. Cheap is strategic when you understand what you actually need and why it works. The 7 items you're about to discover aren't random. They weren't selected because they're clever or creative or because it makes for an interesting video challenge, though it does. They were selected based on a specific framework that covers the 5 pillars of 72-hour survival: hydration, thermal protection, communication and signaling, medical capability, and psychological stability. Everything else is secondary. Everything else is comfort and preparation for longer scenarios. For 72 hours, these 7 items, all purchasable for under $20 total, cover the critical failure points that kill people in short-term disasters. The people who die in the first 72 hours don't die because they lacked expensive gear. They die because they lacked the basics. They die from exposure because they had no thermal protection. They die from dehydration because they couldn't treat available water. They die from minor injuries because those injuries became infected. They die from panic because they had no information and no light. You're about to solve all of that for $20. And if you think that impossible, you haven't been paying attention to what Dollar Tree actually stocks. Before we get into the items, let me tell you who this is actually for, because it matters. This isn't just for people who can't afford expensive gear, though there's absolutely zero shame in that, and cost-effective preparedness should be celebrated rather than stigmatized. This is for the person who already has some gear but needs a quick, cheap, deployable kit for their car, their office desk, their kid's school bag, their elderly parent apartment. This is for the person who wants to start somewhere without the overwhelming paralysis of thinking preparedness requires thousands of dollars. This is for the person who needs to help a neighbor or family member get started without gifting them something that feels preachy. $20 at Dollar Tree. One afternoon. 7 items. A kit that covers a critical window when survival matters most. Item number 1. And pay close attention, because this isn't what you're expecting from Dollar Tree, and it's not what you see on every basic 72-hour kit list. Emergency candles with extended burn time, not the decorative candles in the seasonal aisle. The plain white utility candles or the multi-hour emergency candles Dollar Tree consistently stocks, usually 8 to 12 hours of burn time per candle. Here's why most people get lighting wrong in a kit. They buy flashlights, which require batteries, which die. They buy headlamps with batteries already installed, which drain from storage. They rely on their phone flashlight, which destroys their battery life in hours. Candles are passive, continuous, battery-free light sources that simultaneously serve as heat sources, psychological anchors, water heating capability over time, and navigation beacons. A single candle raises the temperature of a small, enclosed space noticeably. Multiple candles can make a bathroom or closet survivable in cold conditions. The chemistry is simple. Paraffin wax, derived from petroleum, burns at approximately 1200 degrees Fahrenheit at the tip, releases carbon dioxide and water vapor, produces roughly 75 to 80 watts of light and heat combined. No batteries, no charging, no failure mode except running out of wax. Buy 6, store 4 in your kit. Keep 2 loose for immediate access. And here's the first multiplier you need to understand. Because every item in this kit has to earn its space through multiple functions. Those candles can be used to waterproof boot seams by rubbing wax along the stitching, to lubricate stuck zippers and drawers, to make improvised fire starters by coating paper in melted wax, and to create a visible flame signal that can be seen from significant distances at night. 1 item, 5 uses, $1. That's the Dollar Tree survival philosophy in practice. But candles mean nothing if you can't stay warm enough to use them, which brings us to item 2. And this one has a scientific justification that will permanently change how you think about thermal protection. Item number 2, emergency Mylar blankets, which Dollar Tree sells as emergency space blankets, usually 2 to a pack for $1, meaning you get 2 complete thermal survival tools for less than the cost of a vending machine coffee. Most people see these flimsy metallic sheets and think they're novelty items, emergency costuming, something you wrap around marathon runners at the finish line. They write them off as too thin, too crinkly, too breakable to be serious survival gear. This is a deadly misconception. Completely, dangerously wrong. The science behind Mylar blankets is the same science NASA uses in spacecraft insulation. Aluminized polyethylene terephthalate, which is what Mylar is, reflects up to 97% of radiated body heat back toward the source. Your body radiates heat constantly as infrared radiation, and in cold conditions that heat loss is what kills you. Hypothermia doesn't require freezing temperatures. You can develop life-threatening hypothermia at 55 degrees Fahrenheit if you're wet, exhausted, and exposed to wind. That temperature is a spring evening in most of the country. Wrap yourself in a Mylar blanket, and suddenly 97% of your own body heat becomes your insulator. You're not heating the blanket. You're creating a reflective thermal loop that keeps your heat where it belongs. This is the same principle that keeps astronauts alive in the 0-degree temperature space, and Dollar Tree is selling it to you for 50 cents each. The multiplier on Mylar blankets is extraordinary, beyond body wrapping. They become ground insulation by laying them under you to prevent conductive heat loss to cold ground, which kills you faster than air temperature. They become signaling devices because the reflective surface catches sunlight and can be seen from aircraft for miles. They become shelter building material by attaching multiple blankets to create windbreaks, roof sections, or lean-to walls that reflect radiated ground heat back into your shelter. They become water collection tools by creating a funnel or basin that catches rain and channels it into a container. They become fire reflection shields that direct heat from a small fire toward you instead of outward, effectively doubling the warmth you receive from limited fuel. 2 blankets for $1. Store 4 total in your kit. They fold to the size of a playing card and weigh almost nothing. If you only take one thing from this video and go by it today, let it be these blankets, because exposure kills more disaster survivors than any other single cause. Pause here. 2 items in, and you've already covered your light source and your primary thermal protection for 50 cents more than $1. Most people quit right here, right before the items that truly separate a functional kit from a collection of stuff. Comment, still here, if you're committed to all 7. Item number 5 is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about 72-hour survival. Now, staying warm matters, but what happens when warm becomes meaningless because your body has no fuel to burn? Water, hydration. And item 3 at Dollar Tree is the one that generates the most controversy among experienced preppers, but the ones who argue against it have never actually been in a real dehydration situation. Bottled water, purchased directly, combined with a small bottle of unscented liquid bleach from the cleaning aisle. Here's where it gets nuanced. Most people know you need water. Most people don't understand the actual treatment chemistry, or why Dollar Tree's approach is superior to single-use water purification tablets for a car or home kit. Unscented sodium hypochlorite bleach, which Dollar Tree consistently stocks in small bottles, purifies water at a rate of 8 drops per gallon for clear water and 16 drops per gallon for cloudy water, creating a chlorine concentration of approximately 1 part per million, identical to municipal water treatment. This single bottle of bleach, costing $1, purifies hundreds of gallons of water, far more than any packet of purification tablets at the same price point. And here's what the outdoor recreation industry doesn't tell you. Iodine tablets, the classic prepper alternative, are completely ineffective against Cryptosporidium, a protozoan parasite found in most natural water sources that causes violent gastrointestinal illness that will dehydrate you faster than not drinking. Sodium hypochlorite handles Giardia, but also falls short with Crypto, which means for complete protection you still need to boil if your water source is suspect. But for treating stored water against bacterial degradation, for making tap water safe when you're unsure of contamination, that $1 bleach bottle is your water security for months. Buy the water as immediate supply. Buy the bleach as your ongoing treatment capability. What I'm about to say will anger the water filter industry, which has spent decades convincing you that you need a $100 filtration system to drink clean water. If you're ready for the uncomfortable truth about water purification they've been hiding, smash like now. Hit 10,000 likes, and I released a banned follow-up video on the 5 Dollar Tree items the survival industry tried to suppress. The multiplier on bleach extends far beyond water purification. Diluted bleach is the most effective surface disinfectant available for preventing disease transmission in shelter environments, more effective than most commercial disinfectant sprays at the concentrations used. In a shelter situation where multiple people are confined together with compromised immune systems, surface disinfection prevents the rapid disease spread that historically kills more disaster survivors in the initial event. Add wound area cleaning, tool sterilization, and mold prevention in moisture-prone shelters. One item, $1. 6 critical uses. But hydrated and warm doesn't matter if you can't communicate your location or signal for help. Which brings us to item 4, and this is where Dollar Tree surprises everyone who's never thought about their signaling options. Item number 4, a whistle and a handheld mirror, both available at Dollar Tree for $1 each, totaling $2 for your complete signaling system. Most people in emergency situations try to signal by shouting, waving their arms, or using their phone screen. All three are catastrophically inefficient. The human voice at maximum volume carries approximately 1 mile in ideal conditions, drops to a few hundred feet in wind, rain, or dense vegetation, and exhausts the caller within minutes of continuous use. Your phone screen, attempting to signal rescuers, is visible from perhaps a few hundred feet in daylight. You're invisible and inaudible from distances where a rescue actually happens. Now understand what you actually need. A referee-style plastic whistle produces sound at approximately 100 to 115 decibels and carries up to a mile even in adverse conditions. 3 short blasts is a universal distress signal recognized by every search and rescue professional worldwide. You can signal continuously for hours without physical exhaustion. The frequency of a whistle cuts through background noise in ways that shouting cannot, because the human voice produces frequencies that overlap with natural background noise like wind and rain, while a sharp whistle blast occupies a distinct frequency range that the human ear is specifically evolved to notice, a trait inherited from millions of years of predator alert response. $1. Carries a mile. Recognizable worldwide. Never runs out of energy. The mirror multiplier is even more remarkable. An ordinary compact mirror or small handheld mirror, the kind Dollar Tree sells in the beauty aisle, can produce a sunlight signal visible to aircraft at up to 10 miles under clear conditions. 10 miles. You're visible from 10 miles using $1 worth of reflective glass and the sun you're standing under for free. The technique is simple. Hold the mirror and angle it toward the sun until reflected light appears on the ground in front of you. Then tilt it upward until the light beam is directed toward your target. Scan it across aircraft or visible high points. At 10 miles visible range, you're covering over 300 square miles of search area from a single position. No search and rescue technology comes close to that return on a $1 investment. And beyond signaling, that mirror becomes wound inspection capability for checking injuries you can't see directly, fire starting capability in direct sunlight, and psychological utility because maintaining basic hygiene and being able to see your own face has documented positive effects on mental stability in extended survival situations. Real talk. How many of you have a signaling device in your current kit, in your car, in your go bag right now? Drop signal ready or signal 0 in comments. You're not alone if you're missing this. And that's the point. We're building a community that understands the cheap items save as many lives as the expensive ones. Hit subscribe. Be here when it matters. Coming up, the item that emergency room doctors wish everyone carried but nobody does, available at Dollar Tree for $1. And the final item that seems pointless until it becomes the only thing standing between your family and a catastrophic failure at hour 47 of 72. Drop. Almost there, if you're reading ahead, but the context we build makes the last two items make complete sense in ways a list never could. Item number 5. A comprehensive first aid kit, or if Dollar Tree's package kit feels insufficient, which it occasionally does, the individual components that matter most purchased separately. Dollar Tree consistently stocks both pre-packaged basic first aid kits and individual components, including gauze pads, adhesive bandages in multiple sizes, medical tape, antiseptic wipes, and elastic bandages. Here's a survival calculus on first aid. In a 72-hour scenario, you're not treating gunshot wounds or performing surgery. You're treating the cuts, burns, blisters, and sprains that happen when people navigate unfamiliar emergency situations without their normal safety infrastructure. These minor injuries become life-threatening not from the injury itself, but from infection, which in a disaster scenario without antibiotic access can escalate from treatable to fatal within 48 hours. A 1-inch cut on your hand that would be a non-event on a normal Tuesday becomes a potentially septic threat on day 2 of a disaster when you can't get to urgent care. Antiseptic wipes and proper bandaging change that equation completely. Clean the wound, cover it, change the dressing. That's the entire protocol for the majority of injuries you'll encounter in 72 hours. The multiplier here is underestimated by everyone. Medical tape has 30 uses beyond wound care. It secures mylar blanket edges to create seamless shelter panels. It repairs torn equipment. It creates friction grip on handles. It labels containers with critical information. Elastic bandages support injured joints and maintain mobility. Create pressure bandages for bleeding control. Become improvised straps for carrying loads. Secure splints fashioned from straight sticks. Gauze becomes fire tinder when dry. Antiseptic wipes clean water collection surfaces. Disinfect improvised cooking tools. Clean optical surfaces on that signaling mirror. Every medical supply earns multiple roles. Every dollar spent here multiplies across your entire kit capability. But here's what the prepper industry completely ignores about first aid, and it will anger emergency medical professionals. The most important first aid tool in a 72-hour kit isn't in any first aid kit. It's knowledge. And Dollar Tree cannot sell you that. The best use of the 5 minutes after this video ends is searching wilderness first aid basics, learning the signs of shock, learning proper wound irrigation technique, learning how to use an elastic bandage for a sprained ankle, because a first aid kit in the hands of someone with basic knowledge saves lives. The same kit in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to use it is just expensive packaging. Commit to both. Buy the kit. Learn the skills. That combination costs you $1.30. Item number 6. A combination of Ziploc bags of multiple sizes and a roll of duct tape, both available at Dollar Tree, and together representing what I'd argue is the most versatile survival combination available for $2 on Earth. This sounds like hardware store basics. This sounds like the boring items at the back of the list. But here's the thing about survival that experience teaches and theory never does. Waterproofing and securing are the two most universal challenges in any emergency situation, and these two items solve both completely. Ziploc bag protect your fire-starting materials from moisture that would render them useless. They protect your first aid supplies from the water that will inevitably penetrate any bag in rain conditions. They organize your kit so you can find what you need without dumping everything on the ground in the dark. They become water carriers' food storage, improvised ice packs when filled with cold water, waterproof foam protection, waste management containers, and signal vessels when filled with bright material. The 1-gallon freezer bags are particularly critical because they're the right size for keeping fire-starting materials perfectly dry regardless of conditions. Water destroys fire capability faster than any other variable. A dry set of matches or fire starters inside a Ziploc bag will light even after you've been standing in rain for 3 hours. The same materials loose in your bag become useless wet paper and soggy tinder. Duct tape is almost too obvious to explain, except that most people fundamentally underestimate its capabilities in survival contexts. This isn't a home repair tool. That happens come in handy. This is a structural material, a medical supply, a mechanical repair system, a waterproofing agent, and an organizational tool simultaneously. Duct tape closes a split seam in your boot that's been developing blisters for 6 hours. It repairs the cracked container that's been leaking your water supply. It creates handles on improvised carrying systems. It seals the edge of your Mylar blanket shelter. It creates butterfly closure strips for wounds when you've exhausted your bandage supply. It reinforces weakening load-bearing points on bags and straps before they fail completely. It labels containers in the dark with torn strips. It muffles noisy equipment that will betray your location in a scenario requiring silence. I've spoken with people who survived extended wilderness situations and hurricane evacuations, and every single one of them independently identified duct tape as the item they use most unexpectedly, not their expensive gear, not their specialized tools. Duct tape, $1. Unlimited application. The combination multiplier is where this gets remarkable. Duct tape-sealed Ziploc bags create waterproof compartments that are genuinely waterproof, not water-resistant, because the tape covers the slider seal and creates a secondary barrier. These improvised dry bags protect everything inside your kit from full submersion. If you're evacuating through flood conditions, if your bag goes in the water, if you're caught in conditions beyond what simple plastic closures can handle, this $2 combination keeps your survival capability intact. That's the thinking behind great kits. Not individual items, but how items interact and multiply each other's effectiveness. Pause here and think about what you've built. For $11, you've covered thermal protection, hydration and treatment, lighting, signaling, medical care, and universal repair and waterproofing. You've covered 5 of the critical failure points that end lives in the first 72 hours. Most people quit right here, right before the final item that makes everything else work when it matters most. Comment, almost there if you're finishing this. Item 7 is the one that seems like a joke until hour 47, and then it becomes the most important thing in your entire kit. Item 7, a notepad and 2 pens, available together at Dollar Tree for $1. And before you click away thinking this is filler, let me explain exactly why information management is the difference between a successful 72-hour survival and a tragic outcome. Here's what happens to human cognition under extreme stress. It collapses. The prefrontal cortex, which handles planning, rational decision-making, memory retrieval, and impulse control, is functionally impaired by elevated cortisol levels. You become stupid under stress, not because you're weak, but because your brain is executing an evolutionary program that prioritizes immediate physical response over analytical thought. This is why disaster victims make catastrophically poor decisions. It's why trained soldiers forget protocol. It's why people drive into floodwaters despite knowing better. Their thinking brains have been partially hijacked by survival chemistry. The antidote is external information, written down before stress degrades your memory. Evacuation routes mapped on paper, emergency contacts written in ink, medical information for family members, drug allergies, blood types, insurance policy numbers, meeting location for separated family members, medication schedules, water purification ratios, fire starting techniques, all of it written down and accessible when your brain is running on adrenaline instead of reason. Coming up after this final item, the hidden knowledge that experienced first responders know about 72-hour kits that nobody else talks about, and the one additional Dollar Tree item you can add that turns this kit from survival grade to genuinely impressive emergency capability. Stay until the end. I promise it's worth it. Beyond personal information management, that notepad becomes a communication system when electronics fail. Notes left at meeting points. messages to rescuers, inventory of your supplies, psychological processing through journaling that maintains mental stability, children's activity management that prevents the panic, and acting out that makes adult decision-making exponentially harder, navigation notes tracking which routes you've tried and abandoned, weather observation tracking. None of this sounds dramatic. All of it matters desperately at hour 47 when exhaustion is compounding stress and your memory is actively failing you. Write things down. Keep a pen accessible. This is the cheapest cognitive support system available for $1. Now, let's bring everything together because the real power of this kit isn't in the individual items. It's in how they interact as a system, how each item's weakness is covered by another item's strength, how the total capability exceeds the sum of parts in ways that become obvious only when you're actually using them under pressure. Your candles light the space. Your mylar blankets reflect their heat and light back toward you, making both more effective than either alone. Your whistle and mirror signal your position while your notepad records the times you signaled, the directions you signaled, and the responses you observe, creating a systematic search cooperation strategy instead of random hope. Your bleach treats water that your Ziploc bag stores safely. Your duct tape repairs the mylar blanket tears that happen during use. Your first aid kit treats the injury. Your notepad records what was treated and when, preventing double dosing of any medications and creating a medical log that paramedics use to continue your care when they arrive. $20. 7 items. One coherent survival system that covers a critical window between disaster and rescue with competence that most expensive kits fail to achieve. Let me tell you what this kit actually represents beyond the physical items. It represents a philosophy of preparedness that's been buried under the marketing of the survival industry for decades. That effective preparation is about understanding principles, not accumulating products. The candles work because of thermodynamics, not because they're branded. The bleach works because of chemistry, not because it comes in a survival kit package. The mylar works because of physics that doesn't care what it costs. When you understand the principles, you can source solutions anywhere, improvise with anything, substitute intelligently when your primary option isn't available. This is a knowledge that separates someone who survives because they prep correctly from someone who dies because they prepped expensively but didn't understand what they were prepping with. Remember those emergency candles from item 1? Here's where they become critical in a way you didn't expect when we started. Combined with your mylar blankets and your duct tape, you have components of a heated shelter that can maintain survivable temperatures in conditions that would otherwise cause hypothermia. Tape a mylar blanket to 3 walls of a small room or closet. Place multiple candles on a non-flammable surface in the center. The mylar reflects candle heat back into the space instead of allowing it to dissipate into the larger environment. This improvised thermal shelter can maintain a 15 to 20 degree Fahrenheit temperature increase over ambient external temperature, which is a difference between survivable and lethal in many cold weather emergency scenarios. That's physics. That's chemistry. That's Dollar Tree thermodynamics, making the difference between living and dying, and it costs $5. No guarantees. Let me be absolutely clear about this. This kit improves your odds dramatically. It does not eliminate risk. Disasters are chaotic, unpredictable, and unequal in their destruction. People with perfect preparation die in disasters, and people with nothing survive through luck and circumstance. But here's the thing about odds. They're the only variable you can actually control. You can't control when the earthquake hits. You can't control whether the hurricane tracks over your neighborhood. You can't control whether the grid stays down for 3 days or 3 weeks. You can control whether you have the basic capability to survive the critical window. And 72 hours is the critical window. FEMA's research consistently shows that the vast majority of disaster fatalities that aren't immediate occur within the first 72 hours, from exposure, dehydration, untreated injury, and panic-driven poor decisions. This kit addresses every one of those. You now know more than 99% of people who've never thought about this at all. That's your advantage. Use it. Walk into Dollar Tree this week. Not next month. Not when things look more serious. Now, the items might not be there next time because supply chains are unpredictable even in normal conditions. Spend $20. Build the kit. Put it in your car, in your closet, in your kid's school bag. Then build a second one and give it to someone who matters to you, because their survival in the first 72 hours affects yours more than you considered. Isolated survivors are vulnerable survivors. Neighbors who have basic capability become mutual aid networks. Your investment in their preparedness is an investment in your own. $20 changes someone's odds of surviving. That's the most cost-effective insurance policy you'll ever buy. Honest question. Which of the 7 items are you buying first this week? Comment below. I read every single one, and I'll tell you how to maximize its effectiveness based on your specific situation. Think I'm wrong about Dollar Tree being a legitimate survival resource? Think quality matters more than I'm giving it credit for? Good. Drop your best argument. Best comment gets pinned and a full response, because the conversation around affordable preparedness matters more than any single opinion, including mine. Hit bell, because your preparedness knowledge compounds with every video. And I release content that expensive gear channels won't make, because they need you to stay uninformed and shopping. If this saved you from thinking preparedness requires wealth, share it with one person who's been afraid to start because of cost. Not for views, for them. They'll thank you when they're calm in the dark with a candle burning and a warm Mylar blanket and the quiet confidence of someone who prepared. Stay resourceful, stay resilient, or stay unprepared and hope nothing happens. Your choice, $20. This week, go. One more thing. See that progress bar? We're not done. 99% have already left. The 1% who stay get the hidden 8th item that I deliberately kept off the main list because it's the most controversial Dollar Tree survival tool and it generates arguments every time I mention it. Here it is, Super Glue, $1. The emergency wound closure tool that battlefield medics have used in some variation since World War II. Cyanoacrylate adhesive, which is a chemical compound in superglue, was originally developed for battlefield wound closure. It bonds tissue, stops minor bleeding, seals small lacerations against infection, and replaces sutures for minor wounds when sterile technique is maintained. Clean the wound thoroughly. Dry it completely. Apply the smallest possible amount of superglue. Hold the edges closed for 60 seconds. That's it. This isn't medical advice for normal times. This is field medicine for the 47-hour when your options are superglue or an open infected wound. Add it to your kit. Store it sealed until needed. Comment, Inner Circle, if you found this. Welcome to the 1% who finish.